Hi all, welcome to the second episode of the Coffee Break podcast, where each month we interview a creative in the film and entertainment industry. It could be a producer, director, actor, screenwriters, or all of the above. We'll dive into their journeys and stories behind their work. My name is Lester Platt. I'm the CEO and founder of STLL Studios, based in Austin, Texas, and I'm thrilled to be hosting this episode in company of Trevor Burkins, CEO and founder of k2F Entertainment.
Well, I was very honored to accept the invitation, so hope I don't let you down.
No. Well, I think I would like to start with, hearing, if you don't mind, some of your backstory, where Trevor Burkins come from.
Yeah, well, I grew up in the Midwest. I am a proud Ohioan, grew up outside of Cleveland, and basically my entire life I have been fascinated with entertainment. My parents very famously tell the story that instead of watching, like Care Bears or like Zoom on PBS when I came home from school or getting ready for school, I would watch the Today Show. So yeah, always been very interested in it. And then when it came time to go to college, I decided to go to Loyola University in Chicago. And from then it was just hitting the ground running. So I had 4 different internships during my undergrad.
Wow.
Yeah, one of them being at WMAQ, the NBC affiliate in Chicago. And that was awesome because I got a chance to work with Ginger Z, who's now the chief meteorologist for Good Morning America, when she was there. So she taught me weather graphics.
Nice.
Not that, I use them on a daily basis now, but it was fantastic. Had a great time. And after I graduated, my first job was at the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Wow.
So I was a researcher for that critically acclaimed small talk show that you guys hopefully have heard of.
Yes, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, she has, very, questionable brand presence. I'm
Wow.
kidding. Everybody knows her.
Yeah.
But it was a great training ground. Like I got to work with some of the smartest and hardest working people in all of entertainment, and being able to see how a talk show like that is produced and internationally syndicated in 167 different countries is pretty phenomenal. So then after Oprah, I just decided to pick up and leave Chicago because of the winters.
Yeah.
And I decided to ironically move to New York. And then a month later after moving, I got into the NBC Page program, which I tell people is one of, the coolest things and best things that have ever happened to me. And the same day that I got an offer from NBC to be in the Page program, I also had an offer from CAA to be the assistant to Katie Couric's agent. So I had to call some of my Harpo mentors and get some advice, and I'll never forget standing in a 3.5-foot snowdrift, looking at the Flatiron Building, and one of my mentors from Oprah, Candy Carter, she told me that I could always go from the Page program to being an agent's assistant, but I couldn't always go from being an agent's assistant to the Page program. And she was like, this industry is changing as quickly as anybody can tell. So go do the Page program, diversify your traits, and, a year from now, give me a call and let me know how it goes. So I went into the Page program. It was a wild year. I still, to this day, I can't even believe that I was accepted into it. The year that I applied, they had, I think, 16,000 applicants, and it was only, I think, 60 or 80 slots for the entire year.
What do you think it was key for that moment for you, for you to be accepted and everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think it was just because of my experience thus far. Like internships set the ground for your entire career. So anytime I talk to people that are in their undergraduate or going into college, I always tell them, find an area that you feel super passionate about and go and explore it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're going to need references, and you need big names like NBC to leverage a conversation with a hiring manager. But yeah, and then when I got to NBC, I just decided to really dive into communications. And the way that the page program is set up is there are certain what they call assignments for a period of time. So you're giving tours during the day, and then you can be placed on assignment and learn from like some NBC legends, like the head of programming, if you're interested in like development, or, like news PR, which was one of my assignments. So I got to help out with PR for the Today Show and like PR for the Olympics and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely learned a lot.
That's awesome.
So
what was one of the biggest lessons that you were able to, take from there?
that you can never know enough. It was like every single day you're like, all right, I get a little, it's essentially like a jigsaw puzzle. Mm-hmm. It was like every little day I was getting a jigsaw puzzle piece, right? But then by the time, that jigsaw puzzle piece was put into it, then, 4 different like spots would have to show up, and you would have to learn those things too. So I don't think anybody knows enough about, the specific industries that they're in and trends and all that. But it was a great training ground for me to not only network, but also be able to be involved with such an incredibly storied institution.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
Dude.
Like working for SNL on Saturday nights.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was wild.
That's amazing.
I could do my whole page speech for you, but I won't bore you with that. I only had to give it like 19,000 times throughout that entire year, but it was fun. And then at the end of the year, a position was created for me in NBC Universal Cable Entertainment, which at the time was the most profitable division of NBC. And I was working for the chairman. Her name was Bonnie Hammer. And essentially my position was created to help manage the top tier projects that were in development, both from marketing and PR, in addition to just keeping tabs on, what's happening, trends, all that. So I was essentially, the person that was like, hey, there's this new app coming out called Instagram. We should check that out, but it was awesome. And then I ended up working for her for 4.5 years. And as you know, from living in Manhattan, when things are great in New York, things are great, but when they're bad, they're really bad. There's no in between. And I just wanted to, venture out and do my own thing. So moved down here to the great state of Texas, love Austin. And that's where k2F Entertainment really decided to take shape.
Wow.
So...
But wait, you had already an idea when you decided to move. You just said, I'm going to open my own agency.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move to Texas.
Yep.
Seriously.
It was wild. Like I love New York, don't get me wrong, but it was just too fast paced, and I visited here once. My best friend from childhood and his fiance live right down the street from me. I have a family friend that lived here, so it just kind of made sense. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I just don't see myself living anywhere else.
I hear you. I mean, that's what happened to me. It's like once you move to Austin has something, right? It's like it feels familiar. It feels like home, already. So it was really easy for my wife and I to just kind of make the decision, because we made the decision like from one day to the other to the next. And I have family here in Lake Travis. We visited.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we visited a couple of years for holidays and everything, and then we started looking for an apartment in New York, and you know how it's a hustle.
It's like the Hunger Games.
It's crazy, dude, and not only that, the pricing. I mean, it's if you don't have $1 million, it's nuts. So, and we came for Christmas in the 2017.
Okay.
And we started looking for houses, and it was like, dude, this is a castle. Are you serious? So we went back to our apartment in New York. We were like, let's go.
We're like, start packing.
Yeah. So it was crazy. And Yeah, it was just great. It felt just natural, it was, and I think we were very lucky, because we moved in the 2018, like March 2018, and the
What
market.
day in March, Lester?
I don't remember, but it was in March 20. Wait, it was the same time that you moved
I
in,
moved here March 31st, 2018.
dude.
That's
So we moved-
wild.
That is crazy.
How did we not know each other in New York?
Really? That's crazy. But yeah. Since then, and it was kind of a crazy year because we started doing some. I started doing some gigs. The thing is that all my clientele was still from New York, so I was traveling once a month to New York, so that limited my time. So I wasn't able to network too much here in Austin, and then the pandemic happened.
Mm-hmm.
Everything stopped, so all my relationships were like in the air. So that's where, since the pandemic, I started working into networking, here in Austin, and meeting more people and trying to get involved in the industry and whatnot.
I mean, you're pretty well known, so you're doing pretty great in that regard.
No, but how was the pandemic with you? How was that experience with you and k2F?
I mean, it was pretty nuts. Like, at the time, I was working remotely for a production company in New York, and then the pandemic happened. One of the largest clients that they had was Peloton. So, Peloton sales spiked during the pandemic, but conversely, a year later, the stock price went from, I think it was like $134 to like $2.58.
That was nice, yeah.
So needless to say, I was unfortunately let go from the advertising agency for obvious reasons. And then I was just like, hey, I know a lot of people. I had the opportunity to learn all these different facets of information. Why am I doing this for somebody else when I can do it for me? So that's essentially the birth of k2F Entertainment, and it's been a blast since. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's also extremely gratifying. Like, we've got some pretty amazing clients that we work with. Obviously, the majority of them, but it's been really fun to be able to sit with a client and like hear their vision and then figure out like creative and disruptive ways to essentially have their marketing and PR fit into that vision.
Yeah. I would like to know more about that. Like, what is the process of, let's say, obviously I'm an agency, but what is the process for someone that is interested, that has like a small business or medium business, and is interested into investing in PR and marketing stuff?
Yeah.
Like, what's the process to follow?
I mean, well, first step I would say is to visit www.k2fentertainment.com and check out, our website. But then after that, we always do exploratory calls with our clients, put together pitches just to make sure that, we're on target, and then essentially develop, really great ideas that we can implement at scale across both digital and person. And then we also integrate talent and influencer with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
We're like a super fancy resort that's all inclusive.
Yeah. Sounds great. What do you think about, because like, for example, you mentioned pitches, right? And as an agency, I think it's very important to being able to, and that was one of the things that I love, from our previous conversations about, doing this for Still Studios. It was the pitching process. It's so fancy, and it makes, I think what it represents is that you already investing time in that, on that brand, like
100%.
without even, exactly, without even getting the gig or whatever. You already investing time into doing your research and putting your ideas together, and that is really good. And that's one of the things that, on my side of business, I try to implement on everything we do, because I think one thing is telling you something, and another thing is like showing you what we can do, right? It's like, what do you think about that?
I mean, I totally agree. Like, pitching isn't just pitching anymore. You have to integrate research. Like, if you're sitting down with Still Studios, I need to know who your biggest competitors are. What's the competitive landscape? What are they doing differently than what you are? Are there any, areas of overlap that we could potentially integrate? And I hate to use the term like siphon off, audience, but essentially engaging with audiences in a different way.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. But yeah, I mean, you can't sit down with any potential client and not, I would just be extremely fearful for them to be like, hey, who's my biggest competitor? And then me being across the table, not knowing.
Yeah.
Like, hello, talk about awkward, So we do deep dives, we do creative audits before we meet with somebody to go through all of their different social pages, make sure that they're optimized efficiently. And then from there, my creative director and I just think of different ways that we're able to leverage either the marketing assets that they already have into net new campaigns across social and or video, into even developing like fully fledged activations for events like South by or like CES. But yeah, it's definitely a crazy industry. That's for sure. Completely
and always
different.
Changing.
Yeah. But that's a beauty of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It's one of the strengths, I believe, because there's no anchors in the industry. It's like there's nothing that can stop you to do something differently from others. It's like, I think you're right. It's the beauty of it.
But it's also formulaic too, to an extent. Like, clients obviously are very heavily invested and they require ROI. Yeah. So if you're able to essentially showcase what you did on social, the press that I got you, how many influencers that you've partnered with and what their overall reach is, like, that tells a pretty strong overarching story, because you can't just be a one-trick pony in this business anymore. Yeah. You have to know a little bit or a lot about a lot of different things.
Yeah, 100%. And how do you what is the process of, like, for example, in my position, I'm the one who creates the content, right? I'm not the one who distributes it or, put it on socials or whatnot. How do you encapsulate all that information, all that data, and present it to the client?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for any of our clients that we have for Strictly Digital, we'll have access to their Facebook ads or their Meta ads library account. So we'll be able to run analytics and determine what particular, campaign performed better. Also, A/B testing is huge across social. This just affords, a consumer the opportunity to experience the brand in multiple different ways. Mm-hmm. And then from those analytics, we'll essentially be able to determine which campaign performed the best, and then also look at the audience demographic breakdowns. And there may be a great story to tell clients too, like, hey, you weren't expecting to attract, the demographic of, females 35 to, 50, but look at these metrics. You've got 19% click through. That's phenomenal. Yeah. But we're essentially just like an extension of marketing teams, and especially communications teams now. Like, unfortunately, marketing and PR are usually the first people to go during, layoffs or, staff reductions, but it's critically important to the survival of not only your overall brand, but also just various campaigns and products that you're supporting, because you can't just rely on a website or, word of mouth anymore.
What do you think? How do you think the industry is changing nowadays? It's like, do you feel it's going in towards a specific direction, or?
I have so many thoughts about that. We would be here until next March. I will tell you, probably the best case study for that is when I started working for NBC Cable Entertainment. I was also the East Coast-based contact for Keeping Up with the Kardashians on E! And when I started, the Kardashian family had a bevy of personal publicists that were on retainer. And by the time I ended my time with NBC, they had two. One was for life events, and then another was just for red carpet events. And that was just because the mass influx of popularity for social media, that particular entity, that show, the girls would be able to make more of an impact just by releasing their news on their social channels, as opposed to any press release that we would have to send out. So, seeing that happen, I was kind of like, this is obviously a major disruptor. Yeah. And then that was basically on the eve of the surge in popularity of streaming. But to me, it's really interesting now, because if you look at the cable landscape from 10 years ago, and now you look at the streaming landscape from today, it's basically the same in theory. Mm-hmm. It's just more so powered by Wi-Fi. Like everything is a la carte, Paramount Plus. You've got Netflix that you have to pay for. Like basically the business model is the same. It's just a fancier distribution model. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens in another 10 years.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. So what would you say it's the K2F demographic? It's small businesses, medium businesses, corporations. What is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we are super lucky. I have a very, very special place in my heart for nonprofits. I think those are some of the hardest working people in the world. So we have a couple nonprofits in our client roster. We have small businesses in our roster, and we even have Fortune 25 companies, influencer relations program on our roster too. So kind of run all different subsets. But overall, everybody just wants really cool creative content, and everybody wants to be famous, and we are very happy to help them in achieving that goal.
It's really hard to not hard. It's one of those things that it's always in the back of your mind, like marketing, marketing, PR, and it's one of those things that usually it's left behind when you're dealing with, at least when you're head of an agency or whatever. There are so many things that you're taking care of, right?
100%.
But PR and marketing, it's always in the back of the head. It's like thinking, there must be some, investment on that.
Right.
It's and it's so important, because it's word of mouth can do so much, but as soon as you are able to put more eyes into what you're doing, or that makes such a difference.
I feel like you just hit the nail on the head, especially with the resurgence of popularity and like influencer and talent partnerships for social media. Like that's brilliant, because you'll be able to have, let's just say, a Fortune 25 company partner with a specific, celebrity and or very well-known prominent influencer, and then you're essentially cross-promoting and cross-pollinating for a certain period of time. And let's be honest, there are some social media profiles out there like Selena Gomez or, the Kardashian family that arguably have more followers than some of the population of the states in the United States
crazy.
Of America,
Yeah.
So makes sense. Like, can you imagine how crazy it would have been if Taylor Swift right around the Super Bowl ended up, partnering with like Tiffany and Company? Oh my God, it would have done gangbusters.
Yeah.
Especially if she ends up getting engaged to that guy, Travis Kelce, who's also from Cleveland. Yay. Have you ever listened to his podcast?
He has a podcast?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Lester. Okay, we'll start there.
Yeah.
But I love the Kelces.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to play football. Don't tell anybody.
I love their mom. It's so cool.
Oh, yeah. Isn't she adorable?
Yeah. She has this double-sided jacket.
Yeah.
She's so cool, man.
She just strikes me as like the mom where you would go over after high school and you'd be like hanging out with friends, and she would come down into the basement and be like, oh, I just happened to make an apple pie and here's some popcorn.
There you go.
Chicken
wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she has that vibe. Yeah, I mean, she looks really cool. The importance of creative fatigue.
Oh yeah. I mean, one thing that I have learned is the fact that once you put a campaign, or once you essentially deploy a campaign across social media, it's a blessing and a curse, because that exact moment, yes, your word gets out and your messaging gets out the way that the client wants it. But at the same time, the second that you press submit, it's already outdated. So what's the next iteration?
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways for people to consume content across social media. You essentially need 64 assets, optimized assets created specifically for platform best practices in order to achieve placement liquidity across the entire digital ecosystem. So if you think about it from that perspective, that's an awfully significant number that a client would have to invest. But at the same time, break down that ecosystem and just look at it based on demographics, which is another thing K2F Entertainment really likes doing. If we have a small business that comes on board and they're like, hey, we don't have any social profiles, here's our ideal customer profile that we're trying to reach, then we'd be able to make suggestions and say, hey, I think you guys should focus on Pinterest as opposed to TikTok. You guys should be focusing on LinkedIn thought leadership as opposed to, writing a post on Facebook. Might work a little bit better. So it's a really interesting way of like helping small businesses grow. But, as the CEO and the founder of this company, nothing gives me the greatest sense of gratification from seeing these small businesses, start to actually move product and ultimately convert to sales. Because at the end of the day, as you very well know, like, people put up a lot of money to start small businesses, myself included. So I just want everybody to succeed.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. And I think at the end of the day is it's relationships, right? It's like you're dealing with people, not with bots or whatever. I mean, you're like creating relationships, and we're in that industry of building trust with clients and word of mouth, and I think it's so important.
Yeah. So if you were to combine, let's say you were to launch a product, right? Like an actual product that somebody could have delivered to their house and use on a daily basis. Like, our formula is pretty simple. It's digital, PR and marketing, and then also talent influencer. So what I like to tell all of my clients when they come on board is the fact that not only are we helping you get your message out in a super creative way, but we're also helping you aggregate a digital repository that you'd be able to repurpose in perpetuity later on. So any talent or influencer partnership, right? After the window of usage, clears and you end up owning that content, then you can always repurpose that UGC content from the influencer that performed really, really well into another campaign. Yeah. So if you need 64 different assets, like, you got to start developing more of them all the time.
I know the power of recycling content. I'm kind of reposting, work that we've done in the past, but it's like you're always getting new eyes on your stuff.
Yeah.
And new people won't scroll down 2 years, to see what you've done.
Coffee.
It's true, right? It's like
100%.
people won't. I think people just do 3 scrolls down and that's it.
If that.
Right. It's like, so that's why it's really important to get, at least that's my experience. Like, we're always getting new eyes, and new eyes are always reaching out and say, oh, I love this thing that you guys did, or blah, blah, blah. It's so I know the power of, reusing and repurposing content.
Isn't it crazy though? I think the last statistic that I read from Meta was that you have no more than 6 seconds to impact a potential consumer on the platform. That's crazy.
It is nuts. I mean, 6 seconds.
That's basically the amount of time it would take for a stoplight to go from green to red. Actually, it might be less.
Literally, yeah.
So if you think about it from that perspective, I feel like everybody should be like, whoa.
Yeah. 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 And commercial industry, it's, it's even crazy because some people gets really serious on the 3 second range of, oh, we have to show the product in the first 2 seconds, otherwise we'll lose the client.
Right.
So, there has to be the balance of, of valuable content and selling.
Yeah.
I guess.
There's some great resources out there too, like for anybody that's listening. But like the Meta Blueprint courses, which are 100% free on the platform, will actually give you tutorials about the best way to develop an ad, based on best practices for the Meta platform. This is what you do if you want to focus specifically on Meta as opposed to Instagram, and vice versa.
Or Google, yeah.
And then at the end of it, you can actually take a certification test, and then you'll get like this cute little blue badge, and you'll be able to put it on your website saying that you're certified. So that helps give a little bit more gravitas to your overall company offering.
What's the name of it again?
The Meta Blueprint courses. Okay. Yeah, extremely valuable. I do try to do it at least once a year, just because it's always being updated.
Yeah, like I was mentioning before, it's always in the back of the head, like PR and marketing.
Why do you think that is as a business owner?
I mean, it's one of those things that you don't know. There are like probably ways to do it, but it's really hard to know which one is the right way, and not probably one way doesn't work for one business, but it works for the other. So it's it never, even if you ask for advice to another CEO, whatever,
yep,
one thing can work for them, but the same thing cannot work for you. So it's one of those things that it's always in the back of the head, but it's really hard to know where to invest, how to invest, the right process to follow, who to trust, who's gonna do it right for you. It's there are different factors that, at least as a business owner, you don't know.
Yeah. It is really, really difficult to develop trust in this industry. And I've seen it time and time again. You can work with somebody for 10 years and it just takes one small issue to have that trust completely eroded. Mm-hmm. So I totally get that. But, I grew up in, as a good Midwestern boy, and I was always raised that, you do the job right. So if K2F Entertainment, doesn't give you an edit that, the client is expecting, then of course we're going to make up for that and get you what you paid for. Because there's really not a whole lot of integrity in this industry. So trying to, stay true and honest and whatnot, because again, we just want our clients to succeed, and the more our clients succeed, then we're also going to be with them during that success, and they're
exactly
not going to forget it.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to find, but once you find it, you stick with it.
Yeah,
because that will be. I think that's my experience with you, because I think I'm gonna stick with you for the next 10 years.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck with me at this point. And now I know where you work.
Damn it. Yeah, no, I think it's a lot of value that brings to the business side of things, and it's really hard to find the right person or the right people to delegate that, right? But once you find it, it's no brainer.
I mean, especially here in Austin, with as quickly as this industry is growing, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like we're starting to be in a hyper competitive environment with a lot of, for lack of a better term, type A personalities, So it's very difficult to position yourself away from all of that. But at the same time, everybody needs press right now. Yeah. The SAG strike is over. The writer's strike is over. The state of Texas just passed that incentive program, for the what was it, $50 million?
Millions, yeah.
Yeah, over the next 4 years to bring in new industry projects. I mean, that's huge. And I was reading the like the official report for the incentive program, and essentially for every dollar that the state of Texas invests into this particular program, they'll get at least $5 back. So it's great business to give creatives incentives.
Wow.
Because they're getting ROI, like tourism dollars, everything.
Wow. Is there any closing statement that you would like to mention for K2F?
I mean, definitely visit our website. Happy to jump on an exploratory call and talk about any sort of needs that anybody listening may have. Again, like we pride ourselves in essentially being like a luxury resort for all of your marketing PR needs, and an all-inclusive environment, I guess you could say. But we do everything from marketing and PR to digital. We do website rebrands. We do logo development, talent and influencer events. So yeah, come check us out and follow us on our critically acclaimed Instagram at k2f.entertainment.
It's been a pleasure to have you, Trevor.
Thank you, Lester. It's been a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate the invite. This was so much fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. I hope it's not the last time we have you here.
Oh, no. I thought I was auditioning to be like a correspondent for this podcast. Was I wrong?
I'm going to definitely have you for voiceover acting. Yeah, dude. And to our listeners, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and follow on Spotify and iTunes so you don't miss out our future episodes. Thank you.
Thank you.